Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn on the mic.
Welcome to another episode of Lisa and Robyn on the mic. We almost lost Robyn in a quick hug to Johnny Anchors, who's in the studio. We haven't seen him in forever. Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, Facebook, and YouTube. We are up on Spotify. We are in the studio ready to chat.
Yes. Good morning.
I think this is like an unapproved topic per social media.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot. I mean, I feel like you see a lot of stuff. And people tell stories and stuff about, I don't know.
But there's no hashtags for
raunchy. Yeah, that's true.
There's no hashtags.
But I think that, we are coming into an age of our free speech is coming back.
It is coming back, and what's really interesting
is changing in the comedy world. It's changing a lot. More of comedians are being a little bit more free and a little bit more open. Definitely since after COVID, I feel like it did such a mind mess on so many people.
I think people are still affected by it. I was reading a book about World War II. And it was the systematic way in which you weren't allowed to go out. There was a curfew. Neighbors were telling on neighbors and all of that. And I thought that is why I was so triggered during COVID, because it seemed so much like a piece of history that I had read before.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't want to go down this. This history was horrible history.
Yes.
And so that was
kind of like back in the day, like when they were rationing food and you had like stamps and stuff like that.
You could only go to the supermarket at certain times.
Yes.
And your neighbors would tell if you went for 2 walks
in
in
curfew.
a day. In curfew.
So listen, on my ride in this morning, and I'm jazzed up talking about this conversation we're going to be talking about today. And we were talking about messages, like we were talking about messages last week about how you put your message out there. And I'm sitting at the stoplight, and I happen to look over at the convenience store, and their billboard sign says coffee, cigs, lottery, beer, wine, parking in the rear. And I was like, wait, are they telling you like how your whole day, you start, like, we got you no matter what. You start your day off with a coffee and a smoke.
And then that also says
Get
you're not going to the
ticket.
gym. You're not going to the gym. You're not going here. You're not doing this.
But way to convey a message. And we got parking in the rear. We got everything you need. So like
head in the back.
So you have your coffee, you get your smoke, you buy your lottery ticket. Like, then you like either need buy your beer or wine to celebrate or to, drink your sorrows away. But no matter what, they got you parking in the rear.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. That was a lot of information on that, and I just took that in as I'm passing by.
And it was just blurbs of words, actually.
Yes, yes.
So I want to ask you, did you ever watch...
Wait,
you... Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Are you introducing our topic yet?
Well, I am through this question to you.
Okay, gotcha.
Were you forced to watch Dr. Ruth with your parents?
No.
Oh,
no.
Lucky.
The only conversation I remember having about sex was my mom giving my sister a book about Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And that was really about your period, not about sex.
Right. So how you never had a sex talk with your parents?
Nope. And sex ed.
You had sex ed in school?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't even know if we really learned anything, because I do remember walking away like, how do you know? How do you know if it worked? Because then it was all about pregnancy. It wasn't about pleasure. It was about, the human body and from a health standpoint.
Yeah, it's biological, reproductive.
Function.
Yeah.
It's function.
Were you exposed to pornography or girly mags or anything?
Yes. So, okay. Yeah. My parents will probably not like this, but so my sister and I, my parents would go out and they would always get babysitters. We never liked the babysitters. So the babysitter came over, and actually she was pretty cool. our babysitter came over, and we would run upstairs and lock ourselves in our parents' bedroom. I don't even know why we did it. I guess because there's a bathroom in there, and it was a bigger space, and I don't know, just to be,
We're not going to be with you.
kids. Yes. So we were working a puzzle or something, and anyway, for whatever reason, we went under and looked underneath the bathroom sink, and there's all these. So my dad has this bottle of Avon cologne that looked like a car. Remember the glass
Yes.
jars that look like Avon? That's like Avon musk or something.
I remember Avon. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Yes, my grandmother.
Taking me back.
My grandmother used to sell Avon. Remember the little tiny sample
Yes.
sizes of lipsticks? Man, she had to carry those all in her purse, and we used to steal them, thinking like, God, they're so great.
Loves Baby
This
Soft. I
kid
think
with
that
this
came from
red ruby lipstick on. But anyway, so he had Playboy underneath the bathroom sink, and we were like, what the hell? I don't know how to process this.
that. Yeah.
So, and it didn't really relate. Like, it just was like, oh my God, why would he ever watch? Why would we do this? And like, I don't know. They were already even old, but
Yeah.
I was
So do
like-
you think you were elementary school, like 8th grade and under, or high school?
oh no, we were definitely elementary school.
Okay.
So maybe like 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th
Oh,
grade.
yeah, that's a little young.
Yeah, so you're like, what? I don't even know how to process that. So
Yeah.
you know that you're looking at something, but I don't even think it went into my mind to being like, I would ever be like that, or like that's in my life kind of a thing. It would be.
Yeah, because
Like-
you weren't even hitting puberty, so there were no
No,
feelings coming
no.
yet.
And we didn't really watch anything about, like, I didn't really know anything about sexuality. It was like, oh my God, somebody does that? Like, what is that? And,
Yeah.
it's more like the shock value of it
Yes.
other
Yes.
than that. So what about you?
So my mother did make me watch Dr. Ruth, which I mean, everyone has to know her, but I don't know if there's a certain generation where they weren't exposed to her on television, because once they have social media, you could break off from the monoculture into your niche of whatever you're going to, if you like gaming, you're just going to be off in gaming or whatever.
Yes.
But there were only so many channels. I'm sure it was after 8 o'clock at night, and Dr. Ruth was this German American woman who would, in a very happy,
Oh my
accented
God, yes.
tones, talk about sex and safe sex and sexual education. And my mother made me watch it with her, and I'm 14, 15, 16, whenever that comes up. And I don't want my mother to be in the room when I'm hearing this at all. And I
Right.
certainly don't want this really energetic German woman in her 50s to talk about it, because it's like, ew, like telling you about prophylactics and
telling
oral
you it's okay to
sex.
touch yourself, and
Yes,
you're like, what?
Yes, and you're like, oh my God, why is she still talking? She was so upbeat, and she was so
In front of
happy
my mom.
in front of my mom.
I do remember listening to Dr. Ruth on the radio, like
Yes.
years later. Like,
So
what?
I distinctly remember her, with little props.
Oh,
like,
in the newspaper too. Like didn't she
it was
do articles?
Yes, like ask Dr.
Yes.
Ruth a question.
So we would like go scan those. I do remember later, like we would go scan and we could find something, in our mind that was dirty
And I think what is so amazing about it, she's a sex therapist, but that she wasn't the vessel that you normally, she wasn't that exuding all the sexuality like in a
Right.
Playboy or in some
Right.
kind of pornographic thing. She was all about the health of women and women orgasms.
You
and
couldn't find her on
women-
Baywatch
yes.
running down the beach.
But she died this summer at 96.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I was trying to figure out what year did she come on TV, because that's,
Oh, what year did she come on TV?
it was like 85 or 87, because I can't, one show happened in 85 and I don't know if that was the TV
yeah, it
show.
should have been like 12. So like, yeah, we didn't get that, and I don't think that was allowed in Virginia.
I don't think that was
On their
allowed.
3 channels, in the Bible Belt, they ain't putting that
Or it
on.
might have been on late at night too. But I remember my mother's like, you have to sit down and watch this, and then she starts going into, safe sex, and I thought, oh my goodness, like, this has to be the most embarrassing thing, the most embarrassing method with the worst people.
Yeah.
This 50-year-old woman and my mother, and me in the living room. It was funny. But then the first time I had come across a pornographic magazine, I had come across it when I was babysitting over somebody's house, and I found it with a girlfriend, and it was a Penthouse, not a Playboy. And Penthouse was, I will say, the dirtier version.
Yes,
where
yes.
like Playboy is
They had articles. I think more articles.
They did have more articles, but also they were just naked chicks.
Yeah.
They weren't naked chicks in any sexual acts.
Yes.
And Penthouse was
On the dirty.
on the dirty.
Yeah.
And when you first see that and you haven't had a sexual experience, and you
Yes.
think, I'm not doing that.
Yes.
Like, I don't care what this is. I'm not doing this.
Yes. You're like, ugh. That looks painful.
I don't know. Like, it's almost revolting. I don't
Yes.
know what is happening here, because in Penthouse there was girl on girl,
Yeah.
and it was just like, I'm not doing this. This
Yes.
is like not part of, I'm never going to do this. So then, it sort of warps your idea as
Yeah.
you're coming up of like what's happening, and
Yes.
it's just, and you don't have a good way. And Dr. Ruth is talking about her thing,
Well, and there's, I think, some part, and I don't know if we actually physically process it that way, but it's like I didn't relate that to me or like real life. It's like, oh, they're only doing that because they get paid to do that.
And I didn't have that realization.
But
I
that's-
thought, is this expected of me? Did my mom do this?
See, I think
I
I was
really
younger.
was
Man.
freaked.
Yeah, maybe either that or just completely ignorant and be like, what?
And I think if I had seen the Playboy versus the Penthouse as the first thing,
yeah.
I would be like, okay, naked women, that's supposed to be
Yes.
sexy. Like, I think I would have got that, where it's like, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to be doing later?
And the cartoons,
I'm not doing that.
And do you remember like the naked cartoons? And it was like, it's like a train wreck. Like you can't look away. It's like, because you love cartoons as a kid, and you're like, what?
And so then you have all of this, and then you're not talking about it. My father did give me a sex talk that was fabulous. It was short, one sentence. He said, "Do you know what it is that boys want to do?" I said, "I have some idea." And he said, "Okay, they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to do that." So I was
Yeah.
impervious to the sweet talk, because in my head I would just have my father's voice.
Right.
He said you were going to say that.
But that is wise. That is smart. Just saying,
Oh my
like,
God.
don't believe everything you hear.
A blanket statement.
I mean,
That-
it still works.
It still works to this day. My father, Sal's advice for sex.
He gave the magic button away.
The magic verse. There we go. It's like a
But
Bible
do you know
verse.
what? So actually, we were talking about this a little bit last night.
And my mother said, don't let people practice on you. They said, she goes, sex will be good at some time, but not during this time. Don't let anyone practice on you. And I was like, oh, like when you're making ceramics and it's like ugly? Like, all right.
Yes. You'll just have a skill when you're older. It just comes to you.
I'm not
Like,
doing any ugly vases. I'm not doing ugly plates that aren't round.
I'm not doing any humming bowls. I'm not gonna do those. So, listen to this funny story before we get into it. Why I'll let you swallow your coffee, so I change the subject. So last night, Chris and I are watching Nickelback documentary.
Oh.
And like you just kind of always listen to to Nickelback. Like I wouldn't say like I didn't go to a concert, but like
They
I
were
knew
on
who
the
they
radio.
were, knew their songs. Yes, and so they did a documentary of it, and like we sat down and started watching. It was actually really fascinating, and like they're so down to earth humans. And I didn't realize that they went through this whole, and right when they were coming out, like I had just had babies, like twins, premature twins. So I didn't really follow any of that stuff, and I wasn't MTV or
Yeah,
any
you
of
were
that stuff.
sleep deprived. And
Yes, and
trying
like,
to keep humans alive.
and I wasn't listening to that on the radio. I
You
wasn't
weren't in clubs.
right. So through their upcoming, but so I didn't realize that a lot of people, they went from, all this fame. Now all of a sudden everybody hated Nickelback, and like there's all these comedians use them, and like even in I think they did Spider-Man, they did like a little reel about, oh, what do you like Nickelback now, like just you're a loser and like all this
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a degradation.
But looking
Degradation.
at their numbers and like how many Emmy nominations they got, anyway. So they're talking about it, and they're doing their story about how when they started in Canada, like they paid and borrowed money from their parents to print these CDs out, and then they would go as they were traveling to all the bands, all the bars to do open mics and things like that, and like these small gigs, they would stop in record stores and say, sell this, and, just hustling. anyway, so they get their rise to, stardom, and they've gone through a couple of drummers, but then their drummer, I had to write their names down because, I'll never remember those, but, so Rick Allen's like, I messed that up.
Back up, rewind.
So their drummer that has been with them was Daniel, and he was like the last one on, but during COVID, when everything got shut down and stuff, they talk a little bit about how it stressed him all out and stuff, and he was going through some stuff. Well, he had some nerve damage, nerve and muscle damage to his hand that would affect his drumming, and he couldn't drum. So he actually wrote an email to Chad, the lead singer, and told him that he was quitting, because he couldn't perform, blah, blah, blah. So Chad gets on the phone with him, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, we'll figure this out. We'll get you the surgeries that you need. We'll get you the medical care that you need. Like, you're part of the family. And so their drummer, Daniel, had been trying to, like, just feel like he's fit in. Like, he was fit in. He would fit in and be a part of the group. And that kind of cemented it in him. Like, oh, this is my family. And we are in a band.
And they have my back, and their support here, and they want me here, and it's not going to be the same without me. You feel really appreciated.
Yeah. So Chad had said to him, and he said, because he was like, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, well, what about Rick Allen? And he's like, you're right. And he was like, and he was a phenomenal drummer and blah, blah, blah. So that kind of ended the whole show. Like, they were together, and it was, he had his piece, blah, blah, blah. So we're sitting there, and Chris is like, I said, wow, that's interesting. That was really cool. And Chris is like, I said, who's Rick Allen? He's like, you don't know who Rick Allen is? And I'm like, no, I don't know the names. He's like, it's the drummer. It's the drummer for Def Leppard. You did not realize that he didn't have an arm? And I said, no. He's like, you've been to their concert. And he's like, I've never seen them in concert.
You've never watched an MTV video with the one-arm drummer?
I don't know if I think I was just listening to the beat. So Chris is like, my God. So I said, I was into the music, and I said, well, so, and he's like, you did not know that? I said, well, look, I learned something new. I was today years old. I just learned that Rick Allen had one arm.
So I will tell you that I only knew him as the drummer for Def Leppard with one arm. I never knew his name. So don't feel bad. I think I didn't care. And I liked Def Leppard, and I watched all their videos, but they didn't have, just like our video right now doesn't have I'm Lisa.
Yeah.
Like a little blurb above you.
Yeah.
We want to welcome Johnny Anchors to the show. Let me put you on mic 4.
Good morning, Lisa and Robyn.
Good morning.
Welcome.
It's been way too long.
It has been forever.
It sounds like I came on the right day.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
So I don't know. You were recording.
Intended.
We were just talking about casual sex, and I was getting ready to tell her, like, it's kind of what we do every day. It's kind of what we're doing right now. So we do it every Thursday morning, kind of having casual sex right now.
Yeah. So I will ask you, what
Great.
was
Here
your...
we go.
Here we go. You came on mic. You're open to this conversation. What was your... Did you watch Dr. Ruth on television when you were a kid? Were you exposed to that?
Who hasn't?
Okay.
She was the first to actually sort of... You haven't watched it?
I didn't watch it. I listened to it on the radio.
Oh, well, she was the very first person to ever kind of explore and break the taboos about all of it. And her mission was one of the greatest, I guess, statements around that all animals, whether it be humans, chimpanzees, bonobos, kangaroos, whatever, we only have 2 missions in life. Really, if you boil it all down, to avoid pain and to experience pleasure. That's our 2 goals of life. That's what we do. If you can put everything in those 2 buckets, and that's what she explored.
That's true. I was actually going to say procreate, and I'm like, what's the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avoid getting killed so you can
Why do we
procreate later.
eat? Why do we eat? Because it brings us pleasure.
Yes.
But it also hunger is pain, so we eat to avoid that hunger.
That's
Our
true.
brain is always trying to avoid pain
Yeah.
or experience pleasure.
That's true.
And then biologically, all we are is dopamine addicts.
Yes.
Yep.
You can actually boil everything, but pretty much everything that we talk about and everything that's going on is down to pleasure and pain.
So let's talk about
Mindset.
pornography and dopamine.
Yeah, it visually stimulates the release of dopamine. You watch it, you get excited, your pores tighten up, your hairs on your arm, extend, and
Your blood circulation.
Your blood circulation, more oxygenation. Your brain's like, keep watching, keep watching, keep watching.
But then over time, what they've learned is with the more, then you don't get, just like drugs.
You don't get the dopamine.
You don't
rush
get the
from
dopamine as
physical interaction.
So you have to do it. You have to seek more and more novel type, and that's where the addiction part of it comes in because
and anal.
What?
I'm just kidding. Experimenting, like that no longer gets me. So now I got to try something different.
Wow.
Get shut down this morning.
Yeah. You're listening to
That's not one of the
WSMN.
That's not one of the 7 deadly
1590.
words. That's not one of the 7 deadly words.
That's
no.
fine. No, but
That's true.
So that's what she explored. Those two buckets.
And she was all about education because I also think before then it was a very taboo subject to talk about women orgasms. Like we know men always have orgasms during sex, but women should have an experience orgasms during sex. And if you're not, there is something you can do to fix that.
Well, I mean, this is how ignorant I was. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was going to happen. Like, like an orgasm it was for pleasure. I mean, some part of you did, but it was more about the connection. That's what I was thinking is like, oh, you're into this person. We say we love each other, and that's like the next step to. I didn't really. I literally was that ignorant didn't know. Like when you were a teenager, did you know that you were going to have an orgasm?
I think because of Dr. Ruth, I did.
Well,
I thought I was supposed to. I thought that's going to be the point of that.
See, we were limited, but we had ABC, CBS, and NBC. And that's all we had growing up.
I have to find, interesting what channel she's on. And the reason why I bring it up now is because we have an entire generation that has the internet. So they have access to the most, I was joking, and I don't know if you heard this, that my first pornographic, I don't know what the right. Pornographic thing that I saw was Penthouse. And that probably was like, whew, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't know what that's all about, but I'm not involved.
I don't bend that way.
I am not doing that. You can scratch that right off the list. Because it was the one that I saw was a deviant thing. It wasn't a natural progression of what my teenage, like your experience, of what you thought was going to happen in your mind as I read all those dirty books. Two
but
brothers,
Robyn,
cousins kissing in the attic or whatever, flowers in the attic I was reading.
Well,
it didn't seem like that.
It wasn't until we started reading romance novels that I felt like that's where I got my education about women's pleasure.
Yeah, and that was the pornographic piece of like, oh, there's lots of heaving and there's lots of yearning and there's longing and there's like all of those emotional pieces versus just this disconnected visual piece of like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The exploration of the onomatopoeia of the sex in romance novels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where we use the word and oh like that and try to write that in text.
Yes, and it's all about desire.
Yes.
So the romance novel versus visual pornography for me, my take on it. And I'm not an expert of pornography.
Well, I like where we're going here.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton because of this reason. It's not about desire.
Right.
It's about, hey, you're delivering pizzas. Get in here.
Yeah.
Like, that's so not in my wheelhouse of anything interesting. But being wanted, being desired, having that visceral feeling is what I find interesting. I can get that from books, but visual pornography, not getting that at all.
Like somebody that wants you so much that they're willing to write a country song about you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I want. It's on my bucket list.
But in the last 45 seconds, we've had you've mentioned several things, so much to unpack.
Yes.
The romance novels.
Yes.
They became more and more graphic.
Yes.
Yes.
But see, here's the difference in visual pornography. Let's say Hustler, Penthouse, Playboy, all those, and even let's say they even have TV channels with all this.
Yes.
And now with the internet, there's all these.
There's
sites.
Pornhub.
There's Pornhub and YouPorn and all these other things that you read about. Okay, so you see all that, but with the romance novel, here's the interesting thing. You read the script or the story, But you in your own mind are now relating it to yourself because the images that are in your mind are basically either your fantasies that you want to have that you can see yourself being in, or B, something that you've already done that you're reliving through that experience in the novel. When you see something on TV, you are now taking yourself out of it.
Yes.
That's a really good point.
And then that's why I'm here.
Yes.
We've
You're
missed
seeing
you.
it from
We've
a
missed you.
Yeah.
And now you're substituting yourself into somebody else's fantasy.
You're voyeuristic.
Absolutely, that was the word I was going to go to. But at that point, it's demeaning to you because now you're accepting somebody else's fantasy or not reality. Half that stuff I understand from reading is fake anyway.
Yes.
It's not, none of it's real.
Right.
And so then, just like you started to say, then you become desensitized. Then you start thinking, and there's people who are like, I'm horrible at this because I don't live up to the expectation of what we're seeing on the internet. Now, you have no idea that they've copied the same scene 30-second splices and put them together for 8 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever, and you're expected to do that? Nobody's expected to do that.
And I think the more pornography that especially young boys watch, they don't because it's a visual medium and they're trying to film so you see the important bits. That's not how sex feels good.
Right.
What shows well on a television, it's the same thing. You can make the most beautiful cake, but if I can't eat it and it doesn't taste good, I don't care how beautiful the cake is.
Right.
Sex
That was romance
it becomes-
novel. How does it taste?
Does it taste?
Again,
A little frosting on my lip.
That's right. The satiny
I
bits
have
on
a
the
cherry
top.
stuck
Yeah.
between my tooth. No, but
I feel like Robyn is in her element.
Eat your heart out, Mr. Stone.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. So, but you know, what we're talking about, if you're talking about sex, I mean, and we're definitely, there's so many variety of it, but we operate in sexual energy all the time.
Yes.
And that's why I was just making fun of, like,
Well,
that's what we
maybe
do
not
when we're
all- yeah.
getting on the radio. Like, we're having casual sex right now.
Yes, what we're doing is lubing ourselves up to have a good time in the
and
manner
our
that we
audience,
can.
and our listening
Yes.
audience too. Like, it's that foreplay. It's, you know, it's being in that playful energy.
Yes.
And so I think like casual sex is
And we can take the
I
word
think is a product of that.
yes. So when I think about the next generation, like we didn't grow up, our generation, you know that we're of advanced maternal age and etc. You know that we didn't grow up with apps, right? We had chemistry and physical interaction. So even how you could be attracted to someone because of pheromones and chemistry, now you're looking at a photo. You have, and I think what's breaking down, and I think what's happening that makes it unsatisfying to a group of people, they're experiencing it differently. And it's because it's more voyeuristic. It's because it's more detached from the biological imperative of, I want to make a baby with you. Right?
Yes.
And you can look at a picture and be like, I want to make a baby with you. But it's not the same as being in someone's energy,
Yeah.
being around someone's pheromones, being in someone's chemical, like that chemical concoction of desire and want.
In
and
their
all of that other
magnetic
stuff.
field.
Yes, their magnetic field.
We called that the skating rink.
We do.
We call that Ward's Road.
When we when we were growing up, why'd we hang out at the mall if you
Right,
hung out at the
yeah,
mall? Or the skating rink or
Oh,
some,
yes. Yeah.
yeah,
you know,
night lights.
why did we do that? Because you just said it was a sealed room with poor ventilation where all the pheromones and all the everything was going.
Yeah.
It smelled like teen spirit because it was
Was
full
teen-
of teen spirit.
Hopefully not on the chairs.
Yes. Yes.
I never sat down.
Yeah.
But you know, we would go get a Coke and then there was you know, the girls would be on one side and the boys would be on the other and you know, and the reason we had dances in the gym because it's poorly ventilated, you know, and
Yeah.
we were all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that's why all the songs from the 80s, who's going to drive you home tonight?
Yes.
Because, I mean,
yes.
you were out to find somebody.
Yes.
We've lost the art men, and I'm going to be honest, I'm sure there's male listeners.
50%?
We have completely lost.
Yeah.
I haven't. But
We can tell by that voice.
yes, but
The experience of it.
not just that. Men have quit being hungry like the wolf.
Yeah.
Right.
I was
Men-
going to say, like, that's the meadow, man. When you're in the on the dance floor, like, that's the meadow. Like, it's hunting season.
And it's
And the
not,
females know it. I
and
mean,
not
they're
a
all
bad
lined
way.
up to be like, yeah.
And that's why you move your
I'm a
body
prince
because
out
you're
there.
like, see my moves?
Yeah.
You can imagine all my moves.
It's like your mating calls.
let me just have a minute and think about junior high. It was hot.
Everybody's circling, but that's exactly what it is. Like, you're looking to
mating
attract,
dance.
and it's like literally like animals.
Yes.
But that was normal. That's natural.
Yes.
The hormones are flaring.
But with all the dating apps, like, you don't even have to get out of bed.
You
to
don't have
be
any
like,
of the
oh, I'm going to have a date tonight.
You don't
like,
have
there's
any
no.
of the warm up.
Yes.
Hello,
there's
Lisa
no-
Engelman. I still remember you
Right.
from the 6th grade. I mean, she was everything. She wore the LL Bean shoes, and I mean, I could still picture her in my mind. And we were only in the 6th grade, but it's natural, and you gravitate, and other people liked. Another friend of mine was Catherine King. One of my best friends liked her, and I mean, we liked each other early on.
Yeah.
When Lisa, threw me out with the kickball on first base, I mean, I was in love. I mean,
Yeah.
you can throw that kickball and just
Oh,
nail him right in the
yeah.
head. That's my girl right there.
Yes, you would just go home and like dream and fantasize.
But I ran home and I told my mother, I said, I was completely dominated by Lisa on the
On the kickball field.
Kickball field. But that was it. And the statement of, well, if they pick on you, they like you. Yeah, that was true.
Yeah.
That was our
Yeah.
immature way of showing someone attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's male energy and it's female energy, and as boys, they don't know because with their
They've
their
gotta learn
friends,
that. They've
they
gotta learn
roughhouse
that.
with each other.
But they don't know how to do that because we now shelter our kids. Oh, there's no more dances and there's no more this and we're not going to go to the mall. Why? Because the wolves or the lions, the males, what are they doing? They're home thumbing.
Yeah.
And they're all playing their video game. And some of them even say, my girlfriend, well, where is she? Well, her gamer tag is this and it's remote. And yeah, you may have a social connection with that person, but
Yeah.
So when you had said that masculine energy, it's been over the last 10 years, it's been really vilified. So I have several friends whose sons are in their early 20s, and when their parents are like, why aren't you, like, what's happening? You're young, you're supposed to be going
Yeah.
out, you're supposed to be meeting girls, you're not bringing, like, what's going on? And they're afraid of being accused of being a rapist. They're afraid of being called toxic, and so that leaves women to initiate sexuality, and I think we're more the receivers.
Well,
like,
I kind of think that like that whole thing is like neutered men to a certain point of like, I mean, I even know like some of the college kids when my kids were in college that you're so fearful, even in high school, you're so fearful to, if you say the wrong thing to offend a girl, then it can be misconstrued or she could say something. All she has to do is threaten you and you're in trouble.
yeah, you don't.
It's something that doesn't happen. So it's made, like, I have a son and we've talked about situations where like, I don't want to make a move. I don't know these things. What I was going to say is I think the internet has killed like that thrill of the hunt, the cat and mouse.
The
and
romance.
Well, the cat and mouse, that play of, the hunt. It's like it's taken all of the work that we've had to do to get up to that point. But that is what builds the anticipation. Like we've removed anticipation,
Oh,
and the
anticipation.
excitement of it. That's what I'm talking about with the thrill of the hunt. We've
Yeah.
like just eliminated. Well, okay, I'll know her. We'll go meet for dinner at 7:00 or the drinks. Maybe then it starts. But it's actually like putting yourself, being at the dance or being at night lights or going to the football games and having to actually pick your mate out in person and try to, do your mating dance to
And
say,
And I think they think they've removed rejection because rejection now doesn't happen face to face. So you swipe. I didn't know that you swiped off me. Right? So not me, but you know what I mean? Like the person who's doing this doesn't get the immediate rejection because they don't see that I'm not interested by this swipe, right?
Right.
For example. However, you don't learn what works well and what doesn't work well, what is acceptable, what's unacceptable within your peer group, because you're not practicing it in real life. And you're not working out like, well, the last time I struck out, it's because I came on too hard, too fast, whatever. But this, I'll come in a little softer, but I'll practice my flirting.
Right.
Like, I joke around all the time that people can't be charming anymore. That
I know. Yes.
that, like, the younger generation has gained so much in advanced technological skill set, they've lost the human skill set.
Well, let's go to the current manual for how to pick up a girl when you're younger.
Yeah.
That's the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
Oh God, yes.
Okay, so let's just recap really quickly what happened. Well, Napoleon liked Trisha. What did he do? Drew her a picture.
Yes.
And then what did he say? It took me many hours to get the shading just right on your lip, right? That's classic.
Yes.
And then what happens? Trisha's mom says, "You will go to the dance with that boy."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then what did Pedro do? He baked her a cake.
Yes.
He left her a cake. She wrote no, but still.
Right.
Yeah.
He still got to go with Deb, but Deb liked Napoleon.
Yep.
And then what did he say at the end? I caught you a delicious bass.
Yeah.
See, all that is just metaphoric to, it was the chase.
It's
Yes.
the wooing.
I was just there. I kissed not fast enough. For
We're
you
just
men,
on the same energy.
Yeah, that's correct. But you have to woo. You have to
Yes.
work at it.
Well, and I think
But women don't want you to work at it anymore because they feel like if you're working at it or whatever, then they're having to let go a little bit to allow them to be caught.
oh, I don't. I want you to work it. I want you to work for it, man.
Yeah.
I do. Because I'm willing to work for it. Like, because I think that that's where magic happens. And I think with Tinder, like, we have all these young people signing up for all these dating apps, and you have to put in what you think that you like so the algorithm or the AI can kind of match you to somebody else's answers. How truthful are you in those answers? And if you haven't really had any experience about physically going out and getting that hunt, getting that rejection, getting that exception, or having that in-person experience, how do you know what you want?
Right.
How do you know what you want?
You have to experience the practice of it. I think.
Yes, you have to experience the practice of it. You have to go through breakups. You have to go through
Rejection
different
and
rejections to be like, no. So even when I was telling my kids, like, breakups are hard because you do put your heart out there, but you don't want to harden your heart because you don't want that allow it to change you. Look at it as a metric. Look at it as a gauge. Look at it from what you learned from it. Well, now you found out that you don't like this type of personality. You do know that you resonate with somebody that's more funny or more spirited or somebody that's more intellectual, introspective. Like, look at what you've learned from it. So stop thinking about just the hurt and the sorrow. So that's why I was just trying to help them reframe the narrative instead of just focusing on the hurt. Because you remember when you were a kid and you're just devastated. Do you remember how hard it was to get a picture of somebody that you liked?
Right.
But the devastation was 24, 40 hours at most, and then you're on to the next thing.
Well,
Yes.
sometimes, like, I had a heartthrob that, like, I was like,
Well, we all had that, but I mean,
Pines.
in general.
yes.
Yeah, it was like
Yes.
when your parents were trying to figure out who was going on. They were like, "What happened to so and so?"
But you nailed
Oh
it.
yeah, they're done.
Yes.
You nailed it. We have to practice.
Yes.
We all need practice holding up the boombox
Yes.
outside of our True Love's window,
Yes.
blasting tunes. Like,
Yes.
we all need.
The John Cusack.
We
Yeah,
all
John
need,
Cusack. We all
yes.
need the feeling of finally having Molly Ringwald take the ring out of her nose and give it to us and putting it into our
Yes.
gloved hand. All those that was the result of I worked so hard and finally she's showing me that, hey, I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, reciprocity.
So, but
Yeah.
I feel like dating apps take the vulnerability out of
All of it.
take the vulnerability out of it, and I think that I mean, not to say that there aren't healthy relationships or that perfect matches are made on it, but it does kind of help you. It removes it. It gives you a sense of self-protect, I think, because I only have to be so vulnerable. I'm only sharing information that's not face to face, so I can be truthful. I can as much as I want. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
But you don't have to show up. So when you show up and you have to say that out loud, you might second guess yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
What you say online, you might not say in person with your first meeting with somebody.
Well, it becomes the live radio show versus the recorded podcast. It becomes
Yes.
I'm saying things in real time. I might say them the wrong way. I may not. That's not exactly what I meant.
Right, but you get the meaning
But
of it.
I can edit this message 400 times before I actually send it. So
Yes.
you have your best foot idealized version of yourself forward versus the real life part of you that exists in the world.
So here was what when I was talking about. It's true. So I grew up in Southern Baptist. You know, we've talked about this a million different times, and there wasn't a lot of communication. There wasn't a lot of education, like raising children to be responsible adults. It was kind of like, here are the rules. And I don't like rules. I like boundaries and bumpers. That's better because rules seem like they're so hard fast. Once I put a rule down, it's there. It's in concrete. A boundary and a bumper is going to grow with you. They're just things to help you stay in a lane.
Don't fall off the cliff. Here's your boundary.
Right.
But play on the road.
But so I like bumpers. I like bumpers and boundaries because your boundaries are going to grow when you grow. And I remember being a kid laying in my waterbed, staring at my flamingo wallpaper, being scared to death, thinking if I have a bad thought, I'm going to go to hell. You know, from the church, the practices that we were listening to growing up. And I'm thinking like, sex is only for marriage and you can't have, premarital sex. You are going to hell. That is like one of the 7 deadliest sins and blah, blah, blah. If you ask me today, I'm more of the mindset is like, I think I'd rather try before you buy. I'd rather give.
You don't buy that car without taking it for a drive.
Right.
Test ride.
Right.
Okay.
I'd rather give that away than my heart away first. Like,
Right.
I'd rather, because that means like, hey, if we've gotten to that point, then I'm like, hey, you might be a potential.
I actually talked to a person who it's part of
That
their
sounds really, really bad, but I don't mean it the same way. It's like taking the taboo out of it. Like you can't,
It's not an all or nothing sum game either.
it's not. Instead of like, so I tried to raise my kids like, dude, I was a teenager myself. You're not going to stop me. No parent telling me or saying they're going to ground me is going to stop me from doing what I want. Can you two agree?
100%.
Totally.
Right. So I already knew that grown when I had kids, and I'm like, no, my job is not to stop you. My job is to make sure that you make a smart decision. And that's how we need a parent. Like, I can't stop you from not having sex.
But I can prevent you from getting an STD, getting pregnant.
Yes.
And there is an emotional vulnerability to it that ends up happening.
And I've even said to them, the part of it, I don't want your brain, just because of your age and your experiences alone. When you have sex with somebody, you're not emotionally prepared for it at that age. And I would rather talk to them like that than being like, no, it's bad, it's wrong, it's taboo. We all pleasure and pain. That's why I always move away from punishment.
Mm-hmm.
The word punishments, rules, restrictions. That's why I came up with like, why not both? It doesn't have to be. We're supposed to be able to teach kids like, be responsible. If you're going to do this, make a decision that's going to be good for you.
And I do think if you can bring into the conversation, especially for younger kids, alcohol or weed now, because weed is legal a lot of places.
Yeah.
That impulse, it changes your impulse control. It makes you relaxed. It makes you feel like your inhibitions or that nervousness goes down. It makes you feel like a different person. But it also takes part of your brain offline a little bit to now, are you doing what you want to do, or did you just do something because you didn't have the inhibitions you normally would?
Right.
So I had read that more women, the reason why this conversation came up was we were talking to Naomi Major from Integrated Health Alliance about healthy hormones.
Yes.
And then we started talking about the sex hormone, and I had wanted to have this conversation because something came up out of Forbes, of all places, and it ended up being this really salacious headline about this woman having sex with 100 men in one day.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, once I figured that out, it was a porn star. So she's trying to, it wasn't, Mary.
Her OnlyFans
page.
or
Yeah. So it's okay. It's talking
ratings.
about a porn star, how much money a porn star's making. It's not like Mary down the street from the high school is now just taking on this fantasy task. It should have been prefaced that way.
Right.
But the headline showed up everywhere.
But you wouldn't have like been in shock to look at it.
Right. I wouldn't have been disgusted. I'm like, who's the 100 people lining up with this girl?
Right.
Like, what does that say about our society? But then you're like, oh, it's porn. Okay, whatever that. But then I kept thinking about porn is so readily accessible to everyone at all times. It has really, I think, altered the reality of sex in real life.
Yes. And I also think it's done I think it's done damage to relationships.
Yes.
Not just like oh, my spouse is watching porn behind me, but like actually to our physical selves.
Yes. I don't think
it's a numbing of I think it's like a numbing of a sense. It's numbing a sense of like it's placing a barrier of between people. Like I don't know how to say the word. Like
putting a film on it.
Well, like a film that that restricts a certain level of intimacy with somebody, I think.
Even deeper though, it's a fake sense of requirement, expectation.
True. Yes.
See, you're be like, well, how come you don't perform as well as what I see on this internet site? This person.
Yeah. She squeals like a
There we go.
How come you don't do that?
Because I'm not a pig.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Yeah.
She sounds like a screech owl.
Absolutely. How come we're not changing the mattress weekly? I mean, it's the same thing.
Thank God.
Get a sleep number. Call us. You can be a advertiser. But when you think about they see that they see the women. Sometimes the women are fake from top to bottom. Or sometimes and
I think a body shaming thing goes with that.
Yeah, all of it. It's all a self. It's self-deflating. You sit there and you go, well, there's no way. For men, unfortunately, it's always and now that we're just speaking specifically, men have now always worry about size. Well, how many studies, even Dr. Ruth, when we said it's not exactly about size, because there's lots of different things. There's length, there's girth, there's all those things for men. But when we become self-conscious about it, then we forget the fact that we just need to learn how to use our tool, right? And then for women, there's breast size, there's
oh yeah,
there's such genetic
Hips.
diversity in all
Junk difference. We have junk too. It's different looking.
The way how good her back pivots. I mean, we can get into all the mechanics of it all.
How far can she arch her back?
Absolutely.
I'm just
Absolutely. But I think the porn industry realizes those insecurities. And then the biggest question, I'd love to say, we could talk about this for a day. Why?
Yeah.
Why are we insecure about it? In fact, how do we overcome insecurities in everything else in life? Everything. By practice.
Yes.
The very first time you talk to a girl, you're scared to death. When I wanted to talk to Lisa about, hey, you want to go get pizza? I was like, profusely sweating. I can remember. In fact, I'm starting to sweat now just thinking about that experience. And that was 50 years ago, But practice makes perfect.
With you.
You have to learn. And churches, the taboo and, about you can't do this, you can't do that, and the rules. I love what you said about rules. Rules create insecurity. Mm-hmm. Rules create that I'm less of a person. I'm guilty because I did something wrong. And then you talked about the cliff, about that's the limit. We fail to always say, yes, but the view is so great from the edge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Enjoy
it's so exciting at the end.
Some of the best roads is up Pikes Peak Mountain, right there on the right there on the edge.
At least I think our generation was raised to like don't go outside of the lines. You know, hear the rules, hear the boundaries. And sometimes we didn't know where the boundaries were until we actually hit them.
But we were also left alone to know, I know you told me to do that, but I'm doing my own thing. These children are left alone very young. They're on their screens. They're in houses. They're not in public places as often. You know, they don't have public spaces for children as much. I mean, we went to the skating rink, ice skating rink, 10 years ago on a Friday or a Sunday afternoon. Kids were holding hands and ice skating. We went there. We were like one of the only people on the whole rink.
Yeah.
And I was like, and we did see a young couple, like probably 16, 17, and he was teaching her how to skate. And boy, he was like, yeah, you hold on to me, you know, and I was so pleased at that young love experience.
Yes.
You know, and by the time we left, she was a little bit more on her own, but he was right there to be held on to. You know,
awesome.
it was sweet. And
that's part of the thrill. It's the build up, and it's being able to, it's allowing that vulnerability. Like I remember my son liked a girl in high school, and we looked all over for a blank puzzles because he wanted to write. Will he go to the dance with her? And leave it in a little bag and stick it in her locker. So she had to work the puzzle in order to hear the message. And I was like, that's so cute. Like that's like, come on, that stuff will stay with you forever.
Yes.
And we lose that gift. We lose that art.
Yes, because we don't need the imagination anymore. It's like the technology has changed. It's changing how humans interact with each other in the human experience by this technological piece. And
we're seeing it manifested in lower testosterone in men, lower sperm count in men.
Yes.
We're seeing ovulation cycles in women be completely screwed up. Why? Because we're messing with nature and the biology of desire. And there's a huge study in the biology to desire, you know, but like I said, avoidance of pain and enjoyment of pleasure. That's all we're wired to do.
Yes, I believe it.
And it's not all about procreation either. We used to say all the time, only humans enjoy it. Thanks for playing.
Yeah.
No, next. No.
That's why we got a lot of mice and bunnies.
Well, I mean, because what do they want to do? Avoid pain, experience pleasure.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to go to the top of the hour, but I want to ask you, and we'll hit it when we come back, but I wanted to ask you about a guy's perspective when they watch porn and when now they have a real life interaction. How much does that affect the real life interaction when we come back?
Stay tuned. You are listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on Facebook, YouTube. We will be back right after these messages.